We're going to bring in Yemen here. If we could look at number 10, take a look at the map and get ourselves situated in the Yemeni front. You can see here it's the battle in the Red Sea taking place. It's been going on since openly since March 15th, when the United States attacked Yemen, and the blockade of the Red Sea was stopped by the Ansar Allah and Yemeni Armed Forces when the ceasefire in Gaza was into effect. Since the American attack, there's been more than 200 airstrikes on Yemen, but Yemen continues to carry out its legal obligations to intervene in a genocide. Abdel Malik al-Houthi said the other day that no matter how many strikes the Americans hit Yemen with, it is impossible for the American aggression to affect our position and the position of our people in supporting Gaza. The American aggression against us will not affect our capabilities, and there are good tidings coming in the development of our capabilities. So stay tuned, essentially, is what he said about that. Let's take a look at number 11. You can see the USS Harry Truman strike group. You can see this from the satellite. This is from a maritime tracker, MT Anderson, using EU satellite Sentinel-2 satellite footage, and this is from this weekend. So you can see the carrier strike group and its destroyers that are around it. Like I said, more than 230 airstrikes and Tomahawk cruise missile attacks that have taken place. We're talking about dozens a day, every day, day and night, as Trump said in all capitals in his social media posts. We don't bring those in too often because I don't think they're worth saying much, but he said that these attacks will continue until the Ansar Allah and Yemeni Armed Forces give in, which we know they won't do. If we look at this next map, you can see where on the map that those satellite footage puts them. So they're north of Jeddah, off the coast of Yanbu, Saudi Arabia. So they're pretty high up in the Red Sea. They've kept a distance. We haven't seen any footage of the American aircraft carrier strike group within 500 kilometers of Yemen. And al-Houthi has been telling us that they're consistently about 1,300 kilometers away. But that does not put them out of range of anti-ship ballistic missiles or the drones that the Yemeni Armed Forces launch at them. So if we look at the next one, you can see the carrier strike group's position, and you can see a number of his U.S. forces in the region, and the buildup is happening and it's intensifying. The Pentagon, someone in the Pentagon, an unnamed source, spoke to Defense News this week and talked about the Pentagon sending an additional air wing of F-35 fighter jets to Jordan. The Pentagon further rushed military assets to the Middle East Central Command. The USS Truman carrier strike group deployment in the Red Sea was extended the other day. The U.S. aircraft carrier Carl Vinson and its strike group would be joining the USS Truman. That is steaming on its way. The second aircraft carrier strike group should arrive in the next 10 days in theater. So there'll be 2 aircraft carrier strike groups for the Yemeni Armed Forces to target. And of course, it looks like this buildup is a buildup for, there's a lot of talk that it's a buildup for Iran, but this looks to me like a buildup for Yemen. The Pentagon also sent multiple A-10 Warthogs, which are close air support for ground troops, to the region, and 6 B-2 stealth bombers are being sent, are in the Navy support the Navy base at Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, which is just south of where that map shows us right there. Puts them well in range of carrying out the attacks. And B-2 bombers they carry like 10 times the ordnance of an F-18, which is what takes off from the flight decks of these aircraft carriers to bomb Yemen. At the same time, Defense News said the U.S. has redirected multiple scarce air defense systems from South Korea to the Middle East, including Patriot batteries and one terminal high altitude area defense, a THAAD air defense system. So they're building up for this battle their significant increase in troop numbers and weaponry in the region. This is now a tens of billions of dollar enterprise. If we look at the next one, you could just see the different ships. These are the ships that are in that strike group that you saw in the satellite footage. So they're the F-18 Super Hornets take off from the USS Harry Truman, and then those cruisers and guided missile destroyers are what send the Tomahawk cruise missiles and the Standard missiles that are shooting down the drones and anti-ship ballistic missiles that are sent by the Yemenis essentially every day. If we look at the next slide, you can see Yahya Sari, the spokesperson for the Yemeni Armed Forces, said that they had targeted in the past. This was the third engagement in the past 24 hours. So they're having multiple engagements a day. The engagements can last several hours. We know from previous engagements with the USS 𝐓𝐿 right early on in the war that some of them last 9 hours of continuous attacks, and there was another one today. So this message, I'll update this message, was just from today, just before we came on air. They said, in response to U.S. aggression against our country, the naval, missile, and drone forces of the Yemeni Armed Forces targeted enemy warships in the Red Sea, led by the aircraft carrier the U.S. aircraft carrier Truman, with a number of cruise missiles and drones in an ongoing engagement until the time of this announcement, which is the third in the past 24 hours. And the day before, there was a similar statement that you're seeing there that also talked about the third engagement in the past 24 hours. So the operational tempo is picking up in this battle. The armed forces operations against the American enemy continue, targeting its warships in the declared operations area at an increasing pace. It says the operations of the armed forces against the Israeli enemy by preventing its navigation in the Red and Arabian Seas and by targeting its military and vital installations aim to stop the genocide against the oppressed people of Palestine and the Gaza Strip, which is continuing in full view of the Arabs, Muslims, and the entire world. These operations, our operations, will not stop until the aggression against Gaza stops and the siege is lifted. So essentially, attacking these ships, according to the Yemenis, is putting them in a defensive position because their fighter jets and destroyers are tied up trying to knock down the cruise missiles and drones that are being fired at them. Also, if we look at the next slide, they're still downing drones. This is footage from 2 days ago of the final stages of a $32 million Reaper drone hitting the ground. It's hard down, as the military likes to say. That's what a hard down is. Into flames. This took place east of Sana'a in the Marib province, and you can see the footage from there. We are going to they'll show you this the next day, and you can see key parts of it. The voices on this video are saying this is wreckage of an MQ-9 that was downed yesterday. It was downed by the Yemeni Armed Forces, and you can clearly see that it is. At the end of this video, you're going to really see that it is, where you see the American military roundel, the logo of the American Air Forces planes. You don't need Pentagon confirmation. You see it there, and you'll get a better shot of it towards the end of this video. You don't need Pentagon. See, he's holding it there. It's a pretty good clue that's the real thing right there. That's the rondel for any American military aircraft. The Americans they mostly admit to these. They do it off the record, or they do it anonymously to the military press. And Stars and Stripes, when they downed the last one, they had admitted to 13 of them downed, and this is the 16th downed in the Battle of the Red Sea and 20th overall. If we look at the next map, you can see they released for us a map of where they all are. This is since 2017 when they got the first one. The Americans confirmed the first 4 between 2017 and 2021 during the US-Saudi war against Yemen, and then the 16 more in this battle. And then today, just before going on air, they announced another one shot down. So 2 in the last 72 hours have been shot down. Also, ballistic missiles fired at Israel. Let's show the next slide. This is the 8th attack since the war resumed, ballistic missile attack against Israel. And we can see the statement that attached to this one. We can I'll show the next slide. The next slide is a video of the missile that's used, the Palestine 2. I broke this down on an earlier show, but this is old footage to show you the weapon that's being launched. It's got the 𝐓𝐿𝐴 nose cone. And the Yemeni Armed Forces said on Saturday that in support of the oppressed people of Palestine and the backing of their noble and valiant resistance, the missile forces carried out a military operation targeting Ben Gurion Airport. Through this operation, the Yemeni Armed Forces affirmed the failure of the American aggression in preventing Yemen from continuing its support operations for the oppressed people of Palestine. The dozens of daily airstrikes will not deter the armed forces from fulfilling our religious, moral, and humanitarian duties. And as Craig McIver pointed out on our show last week or the week before, it's also a legal obligation to intervene in a genocide. So you can see the launch of these missiles. These have a range of 2,150 kilometers. They travel at Mach 8, which is technically hypersonic, although hypersonic in missiles relates to the ability to maneuver at that speed, which we have so far not gotten confirmation of that. Although we have seen these missiles land. I've shown you on this program a number of times these missiles landing in Israel, particularly in southern Israel. But we also see them partially intercepted, and the Israelis are firing multiple arrow systems, missile defense systems at these ballistic missiles. And the arrow system is a $3 million warhead. They're firing multiple at each of these Palestine 2 ballistic missiles, and the arrow battery itself is a $175 million battery. So again, we're just talking about extreme amounts of money that the Americans are investing into allowing Israel to continue this genocide. This is all for the Americans to allow Israel to continue the genocide, because Ansar Allah, the Yemeni Armed Forces, have made it very clear: if the blockade on Gaza ends, if the war on Gaza ends, if the ceasefire is on, all of these attacks will stop. And for the Americans, they don't care. They want to support Israel in this brutal conflict in any way that they can, and every way that they can at this point. The military buildup that I just described earlier is tens of billions of dollars. Those bombers themselves, the B-2 bombers, are multi-billion-dollar bombers, and that's a shot of the 𝐓𝐴 nose cone for that. So again, the Yemeni Armed Forces, these operations against the Israeli enemy will continue until the aggression on Gaza ceases and the siege is lifted. So they have been consistent on that. That is the resistance report for day 545.